The greatest player I ever coached, inch for inch, was a little guy who was 5'3", okay, from Baltimore, Shawntae Rogers, who actually should have played in the NBA. That was his dream. But the owner of the Nets, George Steinbrenner at the time, did not want to have a guy that small on his team. So he didn't make the Nets, but he didn't quit. He went over to France, and he played for over 10 years in France. Actually, he was in the French Hall of Fame. And inch for inch, the greatest player that I ever coached, Shawntae Rogers. And, you know, if Shawntae Rogers at 5'3" could lead the Atlantic 10 in scoring, could win the MVP in the Atlantic 10 over Lamar Odom, who was 6'10", then that's the kind of hope and inspiration that I think other guys who are, you know, people say are too short, just like people said I was too fat, you know, could never ever play or coach or whatever.
We're talking about basketball. In your opinion, how important do you think the sport of basketball is to New York City culture?
Basketball is New York City culture. There's always a hoop and a basketball playground anywhere you go in any borough, any county, any backlot, somebody's yard, somebody's pole in the middle of the street where they hang a basket and a backboard. Basketball is that synonymous with New York culture.
Okay, so do you think that's why it is more popular than any other sport in the hood?
Well, its popularity is based on the fact that you don't need 9 guys to go out and play. You can play 1-on-1, you can play 3-on-3, you can play 5-on-5, or you can play by yourself and just play a good old game of horse. So basketball is one of those games, all you need is a ball, and you're pretty much in the sport.
Well, I know why it was popular for me, and I think it's the same. I mean, it's a game. It's the American game, really. It's a game that anybody can play. In fact, I've known people to play the game with no shoes. All you need is a basketball, a net, a hoop, and a lot of imagination, and you can play it by yourself. But to play a regulation game, 10 guys, and you got a game on.
It was just like my favorite sport. Like, I don't know, it just meant a lot to me. Like, when I was young, it was like an everyday thing. Like, the basketball court was right across the street from my house. It was like every day, nonstop.
So who was easier to coach, in your opinion? Ron Artest or Patrick Ewing?
No comparison. Patrick Ewing was the easiest and probably most enjoyable player I ever coached. And I didn't realize that at the time because he was really one of my first players. He was the first head coaching job I had was as a high school coach. And I had Patrick Ewing, and I had him for 3 years. And I probably more so than anybody didn't realize how good he was getting and how great he had become because I was in the gym with him every single day. But I will say this, I never once had to yell at Patrick or had to try to convince him to play harder. In fact, I would normally have to try to tell him, listen, you can take it easy for a couple of minutes and save yourself maybe for the next 10 minutes.
All his life, it's like, you know, life revolves around basketball. Even in the small parts. Like, I don't know, just, if you throw some trash in the garbage and you say Kobe, it's all his life to you.
Pretty much, you eat, sleep, and breathe basketball. You wake up, basketball. Before you go to sleep, basketball. When I was younger, I just always used to have a small basketball carrying with me everywhere.
When did you first become interested in the sport?
When did I first become interested in basketball?
Mm-hmm.
I was interested in basketball just like any young kid that saw people walking towards the park that they grew up next to, and everyone was crowded around the park, and everybody cheered when a guy made a basketball or stole a basket or how they dribbled down the court. I was also in the early 70s a New York Net ball boy for a team featuring Julius Dr. J. Irving, John Williamson, Bill Melchione, Keenan, can't think of his name right now. Keenan, I mean Billy Paultz, and the list goes on and on and on. They were world champions of the ABA Basketball League, and that was here on Long Island in Uniondale at the Nassau Coliseum. And we were such big fans and had such an affinity to them because the Knicks played in New York City at Madison Square Garden, and we didn't have such an opportunity always to go to the Garden and get a ticket, but we always got tickets to the ABA. And also, I was a big fan of the college game for teams like St. John's University. At the time, they were called the Redmen, but now they're the Red Storm. And watching a few players go through that system, and you just it becomes second nature to you. Everybody likes to talk. Oh, I'll take you out on the court.
It was just like my favorite sport. Like, I don't know, it just meant a lot to me. Like, when I was young, it was like an everyday thing. Like, the basketball court was right across the street from my house. It was like every day, nonstop.
I guess when I was like 3-4 years old, having a little hoop inside the house.
When I was young, it was a basketball court up the block from my house. So I just went there and started shooting one day.
So, what did being involved with basketball do for you personally? Did it teach you like discipline? Did it teach you teamwork? Some examples of what it did?
Basketball gave me my name because I used to emulate the style of Julius Dr. J. Irving. So in my style of play, I would have been an NBA or ABA superstar if I could have grown to 6 feet, but unfortunately I couldn't. So I tried to play like I was 6 feet. So I was adopted the name Dr. Dre. So as far as the discipline of the sport and the training and things of that nature, yeah, we all enjoyed that. You hated to do it, but you wanted to play the game because you enjoyed the cheer of the crowd, you enjoyed the competition, you enjoyed the team camaraderie to win.
Well, I'm in better shape because of basketball. Most of my friends are from basketball. Basketball makes you do better in school because you have to keep your grades up to play basketball. Basketball helps you with networking, just you know more people playing basketball, you get to travel playing basketball.
Me personally, like, you gave me like structure, kinda, in life, for like having like basketball coaches and stuff, and they would like teach you like a lot of life lessons and like kind of like give you structure, like as a man, like do this, do that, not in a disrespectful way, but like to make you understand. Like, I don't know, it's a lot.
It made me a better person, and it changed my attitude.
About?
Just life, period. Changed my attitude about life and changed my attitude to become better, an individual, and be more spontaneous.
Okay. In what way?
As far as respecting adults, respecting my peers, and just people around me.
Do you think outsiders, like people like me who know nothing at all about basketball, do you think we have any clue as to how much work it takes to really be good?
I mean, like, no, not really, because people don't know what happens behind just them games that they see. There's like a lot of people put in a lot of work before games. Like, even weeks before games, a lot of people practice every day and go hard.
People who don't, they understand how much time you have to put into basketball or any sport, but it's two different things between seeing it and actually going out there on the court and pushing your body to do different things every single day for hours and hours and hours. I don't think people know that. That's why a lot of people quit.
Yes, I do. Some people know what it takes to be on a basketball team or to be a basketball player. They just don't have the effort, the work ethic to put into the basketball team.
How difficult is it to get to and play in the NBA?
Well, it's probably a lot easier to become a brain surgeon than it is to be an NBA basketball player. I used to always tell my players and anybody any young person particularly, or any parent that I deal with, that the odds are about probably 0.1%, which means it's almost impossible. I'd say 99.9% of the people that play the game and that love the game and would like to play in the NBA never will.
In your opinion, who is the greatest New York City player that you've seen play?
Questions like that, I always go in what era.
Oh.
Because if I say this person's name, people go, oh no, but what about this one? Oh no, but what? Because New York, the unique thing about being in New York, we were blessed because we had so many great sports franchises and so many great players came through to play in this great city. When you say to pick out one, I mean, as I said, my idol was Julius Dr. J. Irving for a reason, because I enjoyed his style. I thought he was one of the most amazing basketball players. And if he would have stayed with the New York Nets instead of that idiot trading him to the Philadelphia 76ers, the Nets would have never gone and done what they did, because that team was so great. When the ABA and the NBA merged, it would have destroyed any NBA team at that time. So when we talk about basketball legends, you can't step over like Walt Clyde Frazier, Earl the Pearl Monroe, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, and the great center from New York Knicks, Willis Reed. I mean, in his play against giant big men like Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell. I mean, I got such an affinity to Bill Russell. I still think he's one of the greatest basketball players of all time. For his height and to play against a gentleman named Wilt Chamberlain, amazing. But like you said, when keeping it just to New York, it's too many to just point a finger, and too many eras. I mean, the Patrick Ewing era with Mark Jackson and company, and Charles Oakley. I mean, that was a great era of basketball in New York. So I'm the same thing when it comes to music. I don't say, oh, this was the best, because there were so many and so many different influences for me.
Well, the best, and I want to say, the best player, in my opinion, that I've ever seen was the most successful player that's ever played the game of basketball, and that's Bill Russell, who wore number 6 for the Boston Celtics. And fortunately for me, when I was first introduced to the game of basketball by my older brother Richard, I saw him play his first game. I saw him get 40 plus rebounds against Philadelphia. I saw him win 9 world championships in 10 years during my informative years into basketball. That's the guy I would take first, and I would take him ahead of even the great player that I coached in Patrick Ewing, and I love Patrick, but the guy that I always tell people I'd take first would be Bill Russell, and then, of course, Michael Jordan. I had an opportunity to coach him for a whole week in the McDonald's All-American game when he was in high school, and they don't come any better than those guys.
Okay. Do you think pro ballers would still play if there wasn't big money involved? Like if they were paid the same salary like as a welder or a mechanic?
There would be no one in the basketball arena.
Really?
No.
So you don't think it's...
would you say in today's modern game? No. Today's modern game is about money. Since the break in the 70s when Julius Erving and those gentlemen and Walt Clyde Frazier started getting those very big contracts, and Earl the Pearl Monroe and the New York Knicks had their championship years, and basketball became a worldwide commodity from America. No, I think the essence of it drifted away when the money came in.
A lot of them will quit after like a couple years, and they probably change their profession.
Why?
Because it's not the money. A lot of them care about the money. Nowadays, they don't care about the work.
Okay. It's not fun for them anymore?
Nah, he's just shooting threes and running around. A lot of them not putting a lot of work to them.
Yes, I do believe they will still play as far as the money, because this is something some of the NBA players did to get out of the hood. This was their outlet. They grew up playing basketball, so I do believe they would still play if the money wasn't the same.
Well, a lot of people don't realize what a really, loving and great person he is. People, I think, have seen him at his best, and probably even more so at his worst. Most people remember him from the Malice at the Palace, that free-for-all that took place, but most people don't realize how generous and what a loving, caring person he is. And I didn't really know Ron as well as I would have liked to. I only coached Ron 1 year. I had 1 year of coaching Ron at St. John's before he went to the NBA. Incredible competitor, like Patrick, who I coached in high school, and a few other players. But I don't think people realize how big his heart is and what a giving and loving person is. In fact, it was a long time before he was diagnosed as being bipolar. He didn't even know that he was bipolar. But when he found out, he basically told the world about it, and he donated his ring. In fact, he auctioned off his ring, and the money he got from his ring went to that effort to try and, basically cure that dreaded disease. My last book I wrote was The 7 C's of Leadership. And in that book, the 7 C's are confidence, courage, character, commitment, communication, community, and coach. And honestly, it's almost impossible for anyone to be successful without having the passion and the motivation and the desire to succeed, because each and every one of us are going to have bumps in the road. Sometimes we're going to have barriers so large that most people would quit. So we've got to, first of all, be confident in who we are. And I really believe that we also have to be confident in knowing that we're never alone. I mean, I'm a strong believer, and I believe that, that God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is with me at all times. So I can try, and I think the key word is try. I can try to accomplish anything. And because of that, I can have the courage to deal with adversity, because we know that adversity is going to come. And when it comes, you got to be ready to deal with it, and you got to turn those, stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I mean, you've got to get back up. And that's the thing, when you talk about players like Patrick Ewing, players like Michael Jordan, they've had a lot of adversity thrown at them, but they also had people to encourage them to get up and get on with it, and and they've overcome it. And we're all capable of that. I think everybody's born with a leadership DNA inside of them, with mechanisms to be able to deal with adversity. But many of us, for some reason, just give up on trying.
Look, why do you think basketball, though? I mean, they could do that with a handball.
Yeah,
No?
they can do it with a handball, but it's not the same as basketball. Basketball, you put your passion into it. You're up and down the court. You're playing against different teams. You're watching this game on television. You grow up watching older people, your family members playing this game. Just find a passion for it.
I've been asked many, many times, what can we learn from basketball? And I basically, obviously, go back and reflect upon my life as a little chubby kid, actually a little fat kid that had the nickname of Crisco, because my good friend Buzzy Ward didn't want to call me fat, so he gave me the nickname Crisco, representing the fat that was in the can that we would cook our Sunday chicken with. And, I think back, to those days, and I think back to my brother who gave me the confidence and the courage, and my family, the confidence and the courage to just try to do anything. I mean, if someone had said to me, Crisco, someday you're going to be a well-known college basketball coach. You're going to coach some of the greatest players that ever lived. You're going to play in Madison Square Garden. You're going to, have a chance to beat the Michigan Fab Five in front of 40,000 people on a national television. I would have said I probably would have said you're crazy if I didn't have people like my mom, my brother, my sister, and and my coaches telling me that I could try to do anything. And so basketball, I think, sort of it can give you the energy and the fire and the ammunition to basically try to do the impossible. And while you're doing that, you can have fun. You can do something that a lot of people today are afraid of doing. You can compete, because competition is healthy. You can learn how to win. You can learn also that the only time you lose is when you don't learn. Okay, because there's something to be learned from every single attempt. And no matter how successful, I won a lot of games as a coach, but I also lost a lot of games. But I'd like to hope and think that I learn as much, sometime, if not more, from the losses than the victories. And I think sports, just basically can give you hope, as long as you don't put all of your eggs into that one basket.
Somebody strolls into practice late. Is that looked at badly? Is that looked at, casually, like, oh, but as long as they play?
You come late on basketball practice, depending on who's your coach, how many minutes you late, is how many suicides you're going to do. Sometimes if you late, the whole entire team going to run.
All right. How did you get on the ballers?
In the summertime, I saw like there was a tournament. So one day, me, Eugene, Conrad, my friend named Isaiah, we all went four together. And then Mark was like, this would be a slaughter if we was all together. He kind of split us up into different teams. Because he was like, if we was all on the same team, we would win every game.
Okay. So how did you get on the ballers?
I got on the ballers for me and my friends. We one day was in Queens and we seen this tournament, so we all went and tried out, and Mark brought us on board.
Okay. What position did you play?
So I was shooting guard. That was the best on the team.
How was it playing for your dad?
Cool, I guess. I always was playing basketball, especially during the summer, going to the court every day. And I had the coach right there, so I was always getting better.
Okay. So how tough was it to play for Coach Mark?
Tough? It was kind of tough. He would make us run a lot for no reason.
How tough was it to play for Coach Mark?
It was tough. Some days, we came to practice. We didn't really want to do certain drills he made us do, but we ended up doing after he spoke to us.
And before games, we were tired. If we lost, we'd run a lot. It's just a lot of structure.
A lot of structure?
A lot of structure. Yeah, he was
like
trying
what? That's interesting.
Like, he was trying to teach us a lot of structure, like, and know how to respect each other, like, not to say, like the N-word, like, a lot of things when we was young. A lot of people that wouldn't tell us that, but he was telling us that.
Okay. Did you know how to tie a tie before?
Nah, not really.
Okay. Do you remember how to do it now?
Kinda. Yeah, I wear ties occasionally.
He got so involved in the program that even after I left, and my child wanted to start playing some other sports, Mark felt that it was important to stay within the community, to play, to work together with parents and the children. And he actually started coaching the team that I had left. So he built up those children each year, and after a while, he's got to know them very well. He got to know the parents, kids well, and he did a really nice job.
They call me Baby Bron because I feel like I studied LeBron James, and I felt like playing on the Ballers, I was like the baby LeBron on the team.
Did you have a nickname?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark named me Go-Go. Yeah.
What's that mean?
I always kept pushing, so he just like Go-Go. Like whenever we doing suicide laps or anything, like I never gave up. He just like called me Go-Go. I always was going, like in the games and everything.
Tell us about Rainman.
Rainman, that was my best friend. He was one of the greatest shooters on the team. Everywhere he went, he had a smile on his face, playing basketball. He was one of the greatest. Yeah, that was my best friend.
Who's Rainman?
Oh, my good friend named Teray. I miss him. We was in high school together.
Okay. How did he get on the Ballers?
One day, he wanted to be on the basketball team. He used to always tell me. And Mark had a tryout. And I remember I was like, I'm gonna bring Tay. And then I brought him to the tryout. He was just making a bunch of threes. And Raymond Rainman. That's crazy.
I've met him.
Okay.
I ain't know him personally.
Okay. What kind of impressions did you get from him?
From every time that I did see him, I know he could shoot the ball. And I know he was smiling all the time that I did see him. So he was cool every time I saw him.
Okay. Do you have any basketball goals or dreams? Like, is it something you want to take as far as you can take it?
When I get older, I do want to coach.
Okay. What kind of coaching?
I want to coach middle school, and I'll see where that goes.
Why? Why do you want to coach middle school in basketball?
Well, your dad's a coach. You've seen him coach. You've seen him make leagues. You've seen what he can do with basketball. So it's just want to follow those footsteps. And I want to be around basketball my entire life.
So tell us about Tayshawn.
Tayshawn was my best friend. He went to Flushing High School, graduated. He went off to Delaware State University. He later then joined their basketball team. One day after practice, he went to an open gym. He passed out. His homecoming was the next week, so he came home after homecoming. After he came back from the doctors the next day, spoke to him on the phone. You know, I was the last person to speak to him on the phone. And the next morning, his roommates found him dead in his dorm. After that, we did a tournament for him every summer. It's called Forever Tay. And it's like...
Is that a jersey from it?
Yeah, this is one of the jerseys we did for it. And it says Forever Tay Memorial Classic.
How long have you been doing that?
This was the third year we did it. And we invite some of his teammates from Delaware State. They come down. And the local players that played in the Jamaica Southside area, we all come together for a big event. And we just play basketball all day. Food, family, and fun.
Okay.